This is the business of sports.
The business of sports can be intimidating or hard for a startup to break into.
We really appreciate when our owners are actually there, with us through the journey.
Teams, ours especially, have been very intentional to diversify at all levels of the company.
I think we're in the golden years for the NFL and college football.
Our demographic reach has continued to expand.
This is going to be really unlocking the streaming platform for sports fans.
Sports valuations are rising. We'll see when they peak.
You don't have to be the best in your sport to make a whole ton of money.
Bloomberg Business of Sports from Bloomberg Radio.
This is the Bloomberg Business of Sports, where we explore the big money issues in the world of sports. I'm Michael Barr, along with my colleagues Damian, Sassower, and Vanessa Perdomo. Coming up on the show, with the NBA Finals right around the corner, we'll talk some basketball with Gillian Zucker. She's president of business operations for the LA Clippers and CEO of Halo Sports and Entertainment. We'll also talk about all the bells and whistles at the Intuit Dome after its first full NBA season hosting games. I'm going to let you say it. Go ahead.
Venue of the year? Is that what you wanted to say? Venue of the year?
We'll also hear from former FC Barcelona star Gerard Pique. All that and more is on the way on the Bloomberg Business of Sports. But first, we need to cover some big old money moves in the world of sports. The NFL San Francisco 49ers are the latest team that jump on private equity, reaching a deal to sell stakes in its team at a valuation of about $8.5 billion. And that's just one deal that's happening recently. Here to get us all up to speed is Bloomberg U.S. sports business reporter Randall Williams. Randall, welcome to the Bloomberg Business of Sports. Anytime you say NFL, those three letters, man, I always perk up. NFL owners, they've approved the 49ers and Chargers sale of a minority stake. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, the 49ers sold to three new limited partners. They reached a world record, an $8.6 billion valuation in those transactions. And then the Chargers sold another 8% to ARC, those partners, which was a bit surprising because if you remember last year, the Chargers sold off 27% to Tom Gores, who's the Pistons owner. Now they're selling another 8%. So in less than a year, they've shed 35% of the team. The 49ers had been shopping this on the market for a while. They had a lot of conversations, and it's San Francisco. I wasn't surprised that they broke the Eagles' record of $8.3 billion valuation. There's a giant stake on the sale. That'll be sold, I think, at some point this year. I think that they have a good chance of breaking the 49ers record.
Let's talk about the Giants sale like you just mentioned. So if the 49ers go on sale for 8.6, then do the Giants then break 10? Do they become the highest, growth valuation in the NFL? Can they pass the Cowboys, do you think?
Vanessa, for our audience, let me just jump in here. You're absolutely right. I mean, the Cowboys are $10.3 billion last look. The Rams are 7.8, and the Giants are 7.7 billion as of end of this year, according to Sportico. Now you get the 49ers at an $5 or $6 billion valuation.
Sure.
That's it's almost $2 billion more than what I'm looking at here. Does everyone jump by $2 billion?
I think there's a good chance that everyone jumps something. The 49ers, I think you said 6.8, right?
Yeah.
So about $1 billion, almost $2 billion jump. I think the Giants are the second most valuable team in large part because of brand and market and everything else they have going. I don't know if they reach 10. It depends on who they sell to.
Right.
Because the richer the party, so if you go to private equity, then private equity has the ability to write huge checks. But also there's CNBC reported that the Coach family's interested, and they have no shortage of cash. So if the Coach family said, hey, we'll take the entire stake off the market and here's $1 billion, then yeah, they can reach $10 billion. Do they want to? Is it going to be a 10% stake as opposed to a 7% stake? Or I think the 49ers ended up at a 6.2% stake. So it can get smaller. It really all depends on what the Mayer and Tisch families want to do. But if it reached $10 billion, I would be shocked. But you never know. You never know. These sports franchise valuations are rising very quickly.
How are they selling themselves to pay these kinds of exorbitant sums for these teams?
All of these deals look different depending on the firm. There are some that are based in payments over time. There are some that are written in a blank check. And where that money goes is up to the team.
Right.
Like with the Chargers in particular, I think it's interesting because, they don't have, from my vantage point, they are renting their stadium, the SoFi Stadium, out for $1 a year.
Right.
And they just built a training facility, so maybe it's liquidity, maybe it's debt. There's a lot of things that this private equity and these stake sales, this money can help with owners. So It's on a case-by-case basis. I think that each private equity group is looking to provide solutions in a different capacity, and they all have different strategies.
I want to talk about the New York Giants again, because one of the players in there trying to maybe get up to 10% is former Giants player and television host Michael Strahan. So I guess Good Morning America and the $100,000 pyramid are helping him out big time.
Strahan and Mark Lazary, the Coach family, I had heard Eli Manning was interested. He has since opted not to continue, at least at the current moment. There's a lot of different parties that are interested in his Giants stake, and the reason is because it's the New York Giants. I mean, even though they haven't been as good for the last 15 years, it's still New York. And there aren't that many pieces of a New York sports franchise that go up for sale that often. I mean, the Liberty just had a transaction recently, and that put them at $450 million. You think about what a 5% stake of the Giants will go for. It's probably going to go for that exact same price for no control, no suite, no team plane, no anything like that. And so I think when investors like Strahan, and he's not the only player who's bought into teams. Of course, we have Tom Brady, Richard Seymour, and the late Jerry Richardson, who used to own the Carolina Panthers. When they're looking at these things, the NFL is a bulletproof business. And so if you can get in at a 2%, at a 1%, or even like a Charles Woodson at a 0.1%, that investment is going to topple itself over time, and you're going to continue to make money even if it is a tiny stake. That's
an interesting part, though, that you brought up about like the Liberty and how it's now basically double the valuation of any other women's sports franchise. But that's why I asked the idea of $10 billion for the Giants, because it feels like if you're getting 8.6 for the 49ers and all of the other sales we've seen recently, that maybe market doesn't matter as much, but shouldn't New York matter more?
It does. If you think about it from the angle you just said with the WNBA, and that the Liberty are based in New York, the Giants are based in New York, and the reason that the Cowboys, of course, are over the Giants is the real estate component. And I think the 49ers could build that over time. The LA Rams are basically going to be building a city, which I think is going to rival the Cowboys' valuation at some point when they get that city built. And New York in particular, the real estate, as we all know, is at a minimum. And so if you're able to get something like that, and then you build a training facility, you build a practice facility, or whatever it is that can then be a multi-purpose facility that can hold different events, different things, such as you hosting an NFL draft or a Pro Bowl or whatever else it is, whoever else wants to come in, if Fanatics wants to have something there, that helps bring in so much more money. I mean, Beyonce's at MetLife right now.
The NFL in 2023 generated $18.7 billion in annual revenue, and that was 2020. Their media rights alone are $12.5 billion of that, right? So it's 2/3 of the pie. But here's the interesting thing. 2/3 of that are national media rights, which has already been negotiated out, and we know where that's going. It's the non-media revenue for these teams compared to Major League Baseball, the NBA. It's a very small percentage in the NFL. So it can, I imagine, grow exponentially. Or am I wrong, Randall?
No, you're right. But you haven't mentioned the scariest part to me, which is that the NFL's media deal right now is $111 billion. That was 5 years ago, right? The Super Bowl was 40-6 at one point, and 127 million people watched.
Right.
So when the NFL's media deal, the opt-out is in 4 years or so, and it expires in 2031. Let's say in 2029 or 2031, it doesn't really matter the year, but if they continue on this trajectory and YouTube wants in, and the NFL adds an international package, what in the world is going to be the media rights agreement then? Is it going to be $150 billion? And then what happens to valuations? Like, we're in a world right now with valuations where buying a 5% stake in the Giants could very well be $500 million. Now, add $50 billion to the media deal, as you just said, which makes up the most of the team's revenue. So then what? Is $500 million going to be a 2% stake, a 3% stake? I don't know who's going to buy these franchises when they get to a point of $12 billion total, and you need to have 30% of that in cash up front.
I tell you a family, though, that could do it, the Middle family. And
Absolutely.
Now they are loaded, and they're talking about investing $1 billion in the Celtics.
Yes, they did. Of course, Bill Chisholm, he's made a bunch of headlines for buying the Boston Celtics. There's been a bunch of speculation as to if he had the money, if he didn't have the money. He had $1 billion from 6th Street. Now he gets another $1 billion from the Middle family, and this is going to help him get across the finish line. So that Celtics deal, I think if someone were to say it's done, it's just about done. All it needs is NBA Board of Governors approval, and we will have a new Celtics owner pretty soon.
the original deal was supposed to be broken up into 2 parts, right? Does this help this just get done now, or is it still going to be 2 parts?
It's still 2 parts. The first valuation is 6.1 as reported, and then when they close on the second part, it's supposed to be 7.3 for a blended valuation of about 6.6. So it's still going to be a massive number. I think what's interesting about this is the upcoming summer for the Boston Celtics and who's going to be calling the shots is probably still going to be Wick Grusbeck, who has said he wants to stay on board and see things until that 2028 finish line. But I don't think he anticipated the Celtics season ending the way that it did, of course, with now having to pay Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Derek White, Drew Holiday, and all these other players that Shams Charania has reported that the Celtics are going to be in the deal making this summer, and so the deal making market this summer. And so when you keep that in mind, where do the Celtics go? Do they get below the luxury tax? Do they decide to build their own stadium? There's a lot of interesting things happening in Boston right now, but the deal market for them is going to close.
And Randall, the NBA, as we know, is a very different animal, right? It does about 12 billion in revenue per year, and their media deal, which is, I believe, with Disney, NBC, and Amazon Prime, is about 7 billion a year. So roughly 40% of the league revenue comes from its media deal. What's interesting there, though, is to your point, concessions, parking, ticketing, makes up another healthy 30%. The Boston Celtics don't own their own stadium, right? So for them to command that $6.2 billion valuation, that's a little interesting to me.
You're right. I think what the most interesting thing about it is, like, the Trailblazers just went up for sale recently. And so if you're an interested buyer in the Trailblazers, what do they go for? And then if you're an interested buyer in an NBA expansion, do you want the Trailblazers? Do you want Vegas? Do you want Seattle? All of these things are now in the mix, and the question is, what is valuable to these investors? Because if you buy the Vegas team, everyone wants the Vegas team because the luxury suites are going to sell like popcorn at one of these games. But with that in mind, is the Vegas team worth more than Boston because they could own their own stadium, or is it worth less? That's going to be determined on the market. But you're right. I think it's shocking that the Celtics got to 6-1, but I can tell you NBA owners are happy.
Randall, I know we're out of time, but I remember, and I was just saying this 1 year ago. I said, well, when does an owner make money on the team? Right. Well, when they sell it. Well, that was a year ago. Now private equity came in, Randall, and just blew it at all the blazes.
It's helping out a ton. I mean, there's one of the things that I've always said is that all of these people are rich. All these people are wealthy. Not all of them are rich. Some people, this is truly a family-run business, and then there's some people who this is a business that their family inherited. And there's a difference. Yeah. Just because it's a family-run business doesn't mean you're making money. It could just be that mom and dad toss this on you, and this is how you're rich, so now you have to figure out how to operate it. Well, if you sell a little bit to Arctos, you sell a little bit to Ares, you find 5 different people who want to buy 2% of your team, guess what? Now you have liquidity where you can go and buy your yacht.
Our thanks to Bloomberg U.S. sports reporter Randall Williams for joining us. Up next, we hear from former FC Barcelona star Gerard Pique. For my colleagues Damian Sassower and Vanessa Perdomo, I'm Michael Barr. You're listening to the Bloomberg Business of Sports from Bloomberg Radio around the world.
This is Bloomberg Business of Sports from Bloomberg Radio.
This is the Bloomberg Business of Sports, where we explore the big money issues in the world of sports. I'm Michael Barr. Vanessa Perdomo is our resident expert on all things soccer, and recently she got a chance to sit down with former FC Barcelona and Spanish defenseman Gerard Pique. Pique co-founded the 7-on-7 soccer league known as the Kings League. He joined Vanessa alongside Kings League CEO Djamel Agaoua. Let's listen in on that conversation.
Break us down a little bit about Kings League. We know it's not the style of soccer you were playing in your career, so tell us about how it's different and why you started this league.
Well, we started this league. The first idea was mid-2022. Then we executed and starting the league January 2023. It's a format. It's a very dynamic, quick format, 7 versus 7, so the pitch is smaller. 20 minutes each half, so it's a 40-minute game where we use most of the traditional soccer rules, but also we introduce different rules that it's more like a video game. Mm-hmm. For example, goal double, all of a sudden in the middle of the game, it's 3 versus 3 or 2 versus 2, so people really get pretty wild when they're watching it live. And we like to play this role of half real life soccer, half video game, that I think all this new generation, they love that. We have 85% of our audience less than 35 years, and they really love to interact with all our products. So since the beginning, we put the audience in the center. We ask them absolutely everything regarding rules, regarding the times of the game, what time they want the game to be, even the grass, the color of the grass, which it was green and now it's black. It's because the audience want that. So for us, it's very important to do that, because traditional football, it's the other way around. Traditional football, the audience, they don't have any opinion, any vote on anything. There is FIFA, UEFA, the leagues that they decide whatever they want. In our case, we wanted really the audience to feel part of the product, and since the beginning, we went in that direction.
Even the small things like the rules and all of that, like the 3-on-3, 2-on-2, all of those things were things you heard from fans that they wanted, or how did those concepts come up?
Exactly. I mean, from the beginning, we started with some rules that the audience wanted, but during that process, now it's already 2.5 years that we've been with Kings League, the audience decided to change different things, and we've heard them, and now it's the product that they want, which I think that this is perfect because they are very engaged to everything what we do. Another example, we have the World Cup of Nations, which basically is like the FIFA World Cup in traditional soccer. And some of the players are chosen by the audience. So in Spain, they choose the best players of the Spanish league to represent their nation, their country in the competition. And it's the audience that are the ones voting, and they really feel part, like they are choosing the team. So this creates a lot of engagement.
A lot of leagues would kill to have this interaction with their fans and that demographic of 35 and under. Tell me how that makes you guys different, how it set you guys up for success.
It starts by the audience. When you target the young generation, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, you have to take into consideration the 3 characteristics that define them. The first one, they consume most of their media on a mobile phone. So we design a product which is produced for the mobile phone first. Everything is designed and produced in a way that it will work very well on a mobile phone. Second, this is a generation which has billions of options in terms of content consumption. And they have the technology to navigate these billions of options. The algorithm allows them to just swipe up and go from a content to another content if they don't like it. Which means that if you want to keep them watching any kind of content, you need to have something which is very intense. Something must happen every 2-3 minutes in a game. That's why we adjust the rules as much as we want or we can, because we really want to maintain this excitement. Every 2-3 minutes, something must happen on the Kings League pitch. It can be a goal, or it can be a game changer, a reduction of the number of the players, or the rules are changing for a while. And the third characteristic is the interactivity. This generation is used to interact with their content creators. They like that. They want to comment. They want their content creators to read these comments, comment on these comments, and they have these interactions. My generation, we didn't have this opportunity. We were listening all the same comments, and there was nothing like that. That's why we have integrated into our concept content creators that represent the teams. They all are the face of a team, and they interact with their audience, with their fans, in a way that you cannot find in other traditional sports. And those 3 characteristics are really the 3 factors that explain the success. We have basically built a product that fits perfectly with the generation of 13 years old to 30 years old that have this kind of need in terms of content consumption.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up about the content creators who are parts of the league and things like that. As a former player, you would think, you would just talk to your other athlete friends and other athlete investors, and that's how a lot of other traditional leagues, bring in athletes and things like that. I mean, you do have some, obviously, your former teammate, Iker Casillas, who I was a big fan of. I used to use his gloves because I used to be a goalkeeper. You have him as a part of it, but it's also the streamers and Twitch and all of these other people. Tell me why that was part of what you were thinking, and was it really the content creators?
Yeah, the content creators or streamers were key because they have a huge community, very loyal to everything what they do. Any project that they launch, they jump on it because they have a constant interaction live with the streamer. So, for example, the streamer is at home. For 5 hours, he's talking to his audience, and his audience in the chat can interact and ask questions, and they feel very connected, much more connected or engaged than my fans with me or any sports celebrity or artist or actor, because they have this in a daily basis, constant interaction. So at the moment that we gave that ownership to these streamers and they felt that it was his team, we knew that all their audience will jump in the project. And if we put together all these communities with the streamers, thanks to the streamers, the league started with a huge amount of people following the teams. At the same time, we wanted also to involve legends like Iker Casillas, Kun Agüero. Now we have a bunch of, 30, 40, 50. We have Lamine Yamal that has a team, which is the new big thing in Europe. We have Neymar having a team in Brazil. We have Kaká as the president of one league. We have Zlatan Ibrahimovic as the president in Italy. So we wanted to involve all these legends because it gives obviously credibility to the project. At the same time, all these traditional media talks about it because they are part and they play a role inside the project. And this mix between the digital world with the streamers plus the traditional world with the legends, it's perfect. It fits perfect. So we are mainstream. All the audience follow the competition.
Did their excitement and their hunger for their streamers' content and stuff, did that surprise you at all?
A lot. I mean, they are extremely committed. Very surprising from my side because I thought that Iker Casillas or Kun Agüero or this kind, they will be relaxed and okay, I have a team, but I'm not very involved. They really suffer when they lose. I mean, they really when the referee is not doing the right job, they criticize the referee. They call me, listen. I mean, what's happening here? So you can feel that the commitment they have is huge, much bigger than what we could expect. And the fact that they are involved with the streamers and they have contact with this new young generation that maybe they didn't see them play when they were football players, but now they can have that interaction. I think it's for them it's great. They really enjoy, and there's no legend that have left the project or that is not involved. No, the other way around. They are very committed.
Yeah, I love that. And so let's get back to the World Cup and the World Club Cup. So you have the World Cup of Nations in January, and then we'll have the Kings World Cup Clubs in June. Djamel, tell me about adding those and why that was something. Was that something that came from the fans and you guys listened immediately? I mean, this is 2 years in and we're already having all these things. You've already expanded to so many different countries.
Yeah, that's the thing. When you work with these streamers, there is no border. They have fans everywhere in the world. We started in Spain, but we noticed very quickly that 40% of the audience was coming from Latin America. So we said, well, let's bring the product there. And then we created the same league, the same two leagues, by the way. I want to insist on that. We have Kings League and Queens League in Spain. And we created the same two leagues in Mexico, Kings League and Queens League in Mexico, which is a Latin American league with 12 teams. But some teams are representing Mexico. Some other teams represent other countries of Latin America, Argentina, Chile, Peru, Colombia, etc. And then the success was about the same in Mexico. So we said, well, we should continue to expand. And then we decided first to organize the first Champions League, first World Cup of Clubs last year in Mexico. At that time, we had only two leagues. So we invited the best clubs of those leagues to participate. Plus, we distributed some wild cards to a dozen of countries, one team per country, to expose the product. And we saw in countries like France, Italy, Brazil, Germany, a lot of excitement around our product. So we said, okay, let's go for it. And we decided to open more countries. So now we have 6 countries operational. On top of Spain and Mexico, we have leagues in France, Italy, Germany, and Brazil. For now, it's only Kings League on those 4 countries, but Queens will come. Absolutely, it's important for us. And we'll continue with our expansion. The beauty about our sport, soccer, is played everywhere. There is excitement everywhere about the sport, and we receive a lot of inbound interest from a lot of countries in the world that see that the product is really exciting for all the young generation all over the world. And so we'll continue with this excitement. World Cup of Nations, it's because Gerard told us when I was a player, wearing the jersey of your country is something which has no equivalent. We should do it, and our calendar was pretty packed. But we found a way to squeeze it in January, and we did a crazy event from January 1st to January 12th. It was in Italy. 16 countries, national teams, the best player of each country competed. At the end, as often in football, Brazil won in a final that happened in Torino, in the Allianz Arena of the Juventus. 45,000, fully sold out on January 12th for a final, Brazil-Colombia. in Italy. So it's
Right.
it showed the interest and great success in this competition. For example, we had 100 million viewers on 10 days of competition.
Wow. I mean, it's clear that you're obviously getting success and everything there, and all the numbers are pointing upwards. But from a business perspective, is it hard to keep up with all of that growth in such a short amount of time?
It is, of course, it is, because we have to execute events in the right way. We want our product to be the same everywhere, which requires us to be extremely strict in the way we implement the product everywhere. Kings League has some codes, and so it's a unique brand, the same product. We are all part of the ecosystem, so it's difficult to recruit talent to execute all that. But the project is so exciting. It's true that we have a lot of excitement around all of us. In all the stakeholders, the content creators want to work with us. The legend of the game, they call Gerard very often to ask him if they could squeeze in Damian in a team, and the brands wants to be associated to our product because it's a new modern product targeting young generation. It's a challenge, but so far so good, and we'll go on.
Well, guys, thanks so much. I'm really excited about Kings League, about soccer, everything going on in the U.S. I'm really pumped. So thanks so much for joining us in the studio, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's former FC Barcelona Gerard Pique, along with Kings League CEO Djamel Agaoua, speaking with our own Vanessa Perdomo. Up next, we turn to basketball and the NBA's newest arena coming off of its first full season. I'm Michael Barr. You're listening to the Bloomberg Business of Sports from Bloomberg Radio around the world.
This is Bloomberg Business of Sports from Bloomberg Radio.
Thanks for joining us on the Bloomberg Business of Sports, where we explore the big money issues in the world of sports. I'm Michael Barr, along with my colleagues Damian, Sassower, and Vanessa Perdomo. The Intuit Dome is the NBA's newest arena, and it just wrapped up its first full season and raked in a ton of praise. Joining us now to talk about the experience at the new venue is Gillian Zucker. She's president of business operations for the LA Clippers, who play their home games at the $2 billion arena. She's also CEO of Halo Sports and Entertainment. Gillian, welcome to the Bloomberg Business of Sports. Well, let's start with this. You came in town because of the Sports Business Awards. Intuit Dome is... Well, I'm going to let you say it. Go ahead.
Venue of the year? Is that what you wanted to say? Venue of the year?
Congratulations, first of all.
Thank you. I think the congratulations belongs to a lot of people. It was a literal army of people who had a part in this whole thing, and the vision of Steve Ballmer, which I think many were a little speculative about as we were creating a lot of really new concepts in terms of new technology and new experiences in an NBA facility, and certainly a magical place it turned out for music as well.
The last time you were here, you weren't Halo Sports and Entertainment. How have things changed inside of the organization, right? I mean, I know that beautiful Halo screen you have
Correct.
at the Intuit Dome.
Yeah.
I'm sure that it's something to do with the name, but talk to us now about you consolidating everything under this one umbrella name, the branding, the challenges for you, for Steve Ballmer, and for the organization here.
Yeah, well, I think when you think about the business and that halo, it sort of wraps around the building and it creates a, sort of unexpected experience for people. And that's sort of what we hope that all of these properties do. So as we were thinking about economies of scale and really being one organization that has the same kind of vision, we felt like it was important to establish that. So Kia Forum, our property that's just a mile down the road from Intuit Dome, is part of Halo Sports and Entertainment, as well as Intuit Dome, the Clippers, and then the San Diego Clippers, which is our G League affiliate.
When you're just talking about how all of these things that were coming together, the innovation, the creativity of Steve Ballmer, when you're creating the venue that is Venue of the Year, tell us about that, because, Michael, you can go into a concession and you can just walk in as long as you have everything loaded up on your app, and you just walk in, get your popcorn, go back to your seat without swiping your credit card, without doing anything like that. I mean, when you're looking at all that innovation, the halo, like Damian was saying, what were those conversations like? How did you think, okay, this is how we're going to do it? Tell us about all that.
Yeah, I mean, it actually turns out that hard things are really actually quite hard. And that's what this was, because when Steve established this concept for us, he said, I want it to be like my living room. And in my living room, I have a perfect view of the game. Nothing is blocking my view of the game. I want to have a seat that's comfortable and wide and that provides me with perfect sight lines. I want to get something to drink when I'm in my living room. I get up from my comfortable seat, I go to the fridge, I open the door, I pull out my drink, and I walk back to my seat. Nobody stops me. I don't have to worry about missing part of the game. I can be back before the end of the commercial break. Can we do that for 18,000 people? Same with bathrooms. The bathroom outside my living room does not have a line at it. And I don't want the bathrooms at Intuit Dome to have lines at them. So we really looked at the building and said, okay, what can be done through architecture? So we can add bathrooms. And we did some pedestrian modeling where we had, half of a section get up at the same time, go to the restroom at the same time. Could they get back to their seat? And we just kept adding them until we were able to solve that puzzle. So that was one part of it, the architecture part. The other part of it was the technology part. Was, okay, then how do we make it possible after that restroom stop for you to run to a concession stand, grab a drink out of the fridge and, an amazing burger and go back to your seat without missing any part of the game? And that's where, a whole host of people, including iFi Technology, which is the technology that powers the frictionless experience, and Globant, who, kind of puts everything together and creates the process that works with our app, as well as Clear, which powers our game Face ID. So when you are downloading the app for Intuit Dome, you say who you are, your ticket is attached to it, you give us your information, you take a selfie of yourself, and you upload a payment method. And that's become faster and simpler throughout the season. But after you've done all of those things, you literally can put your phone in your pocket and just walk in the building. And your face is your ticket, your face is your wallet, your face is your access to a club. And essentially, you do have this experience that Steve envisioned, which is, it gets to be like your living room. Now, building that has been, a tremendous process of collaboration with a lot of people, tremendous help from Ticketmaster in order to integrate the ticket process into all of this. And the number of people who kind of took this vision on as their own and said, this is a part of what will be our legacy, is really what I think got us to this venue of the year. It wasn't one person. It was, an army of people who said, let's do something really innovative and amazing.
You know what old geezer Barr used to do when he would go to the old Tiger Stadium back in Detroit, and I wanted to go to the men's room? There was a trough. Okay, I'm getting off. I'm sorry. I'm getting off topic.
Yeah, but those troughs are fast.
Yeah, they are. I want to get to the basic question. What is it like? And we asked you this, I think, when you were here the last time. So I'm going to ask you again. What is it like working for Steve Ballmer?
Greatest experience of my life. It's just amazing. He is a driver. He will paint what I like to call the 100,000-foot picture of things, and then he'll let you think about it. And there literally is not a resource that you can't get to anywhere on the planet. So I remember when I was sort of stopped at this idea of facilitating this living room concept. Where do you go to build something like this that's never been done before? And I started thinking about, I don't even really know how to write a job description for the person who would need to lead this tech. So he said, okay, well, think about it. Where would there be a place where, you might see that skill set? And I was like, theme parks. And he's like, well, you have a season ticket holder who knows something about theme parks. So Bob Iger, longtime season ticket holder of the Clippers. And so
I liked how that slipped in there. That was
just
good.
one small ticket holder there.
And so I was like, oh, yeah, okay. So I reached out and I said, I want to learn what great looks like. Can I just meet with the person who, and this obviously wasn't a target for somebody who would come to help us with Intuit Dome, but I just wanted to see what that kind of visionary person was like, the skill sets they had. And I met him, and he was amazing. And he really helped a lot with both painting the picture. Yes, it's possible. There's tech out there that you could integrate in order to make this happen. And then let me help you find a recruiter who can help you find the person who can do this for you. And let me help you write the job description.
Well, Gillian, now hold up a second here. Let's just be clear. You sit on the board of directors for Houlihan Lokey as well, one of the top financial advisory and restructuring practices focused on the sports ecosystem out there. You're named to Los Angeles Magazine's Most Powerful Women in LA. I mean, you're Los Angeles Business Journal Executive of the Year. I mean, you're no slouch yourself.
Thank you.
You know, he's Bill Gates. You're his Steve Ballmer right now. So talk to us a little bit about that relationship.
And damn, we know you.
Oh my gosh. I feel privileged to know you. I think this is the magic of him. He makes everybody around him better. Whether you're, I think even his family would say the same. Like the impact that he has is pretty tremendous. And I would say like the network that he has, the people that he's been around during his life, and the stories that he tells about the people that he's learned from at sort of every level, in every opportunity, in every space. And it's reminded me of this incredible power of networking. You mentioned this network that I happen to enjoy at this point, but that started when I was in college. I went to Hamilton College, very small liberal arts school.
Grew up in New Jersey.
Right, with an amazing network. And to this day, like I use that as part of it. As I meet people, Scott Adelson, the CEO of Houlihan Lokey, I mean, just a tremendous human being, but also like shows the power of network and what that can do. Right. And I think that, that's something that we spend a lot of time sort of talking about is who does things the best, and then how can you learn from them, emulate from them, be around them. And that challenges us in order to say, okay, what's next? And your point about what's coming, that's kind of the most amazing part about Intuit Dome. Steve, sort of when we talk about it, we say Intuit Dome is the hardware, right? But what powers it is the software. And part of that software are the fans. Like that's the fan experience that creates this energy and this emotion where you leave the place and you think, oh my God, right? That's what a concert or a sporting event should be all about. Win or lose, really. It's just like that spirit that you're left with. It's a really magical place. And I always say to people, they're like, oh, I've seen it on TV and it looks amazing. Like you have to be there live to really understand the power of this building.
I love that you're talking about the magic of it. And also as we talk about what's next, LA 2028 is on the horizon. And Intuit Dome wasn't built when LA got the bid, and for this no-build Olympics that, we have all these venues, they're all so great, and then you add Intuit Dome on top of it. Tell us about that, how excited you guys are to have the Olympics in LA and all of that.
I mean, we are incredibly proud to be hosting basketball. And we think, obviously, it is the absolute perfect venue to be doing that. I mean, just the sheer number of locker rooms we've built and the spaces that we have for training.
Is the wall going to be there?
Wow, I sure hope so. It's so funny. I mean, that'll be an Olympic decision, but it's one of the things that we've been talking about. We have the NBA All-Star Game coming in February, and we're really excited about it. And one of the conversations that we've been having with them is how important it is to have the wall providing that energy. And, just for people who aren't aware of it, it starts in row 1, goes up to row 51, and it's a contiguous grandstand. So it's just a sea of humanity, and it is the steepest rake allowable by code. But the seats are really comfortable. So they have a ton of leg room, which is really important if you want fans to stand and cheer. So this thing, when it is full, in the middle of it is this standing supporter section, that's about 400 strong, that powers the remainder of the, 4,600 seats that are there. And they're incredibly funny, like super fun, very clever. The things that they do in there are just pure joy. And it's more similar to what you might experience in a college environment than anywhere else. And I think that it's become really one of the most popular places for people to sit anywhere in the arena. So pretty amazing. Great place for kids and families and anybody who has a whole bunch of energy. But you have to be a Clippers fan to sit there. We do not let opposing team fans sit there. You cannot wear opposing team gear. We'll relocate you somewhere else.
I am so glad you said this. Here's a lesson for folks who are ever invited to go to sit in a box. You better wear the jersey of the people who invited you in the box.
Good point.
I'm sorry. Our thanks to Gillian Zucker for joining us. She's president of business operations for the LA Clippers and CEO of Halo Sports and Entertainment. And thank you for joining us. For my colleagues Damian, Sassower, and Vanessa Perdomo, I'm Michael Barr. Tune in again next week for the latest on the stories moving big money in the world of sports. You are listening to the Bloomberg Business of Sports from Bloomberg Radio around the world. And don't forget to catch our podcast on all your podcast platforms.